Morning, students. So, as you can see, we are doing the third chapter from your textbook, First Flight. And in this chapter, you see there are two stories. The first one is His First Flight, and the second one is Black Aeroplane. Now, these are the two stories in this particular chapter. And as far as the first chapter, his first flight is concerned, we have already done this. And I also gave you one writing assignment, which is very important. Okay. So you can see his first flight is a story about that seagull. Okay. It talks about the learning new things. Whenever we learn new things, there is one thing which always stops us, and that is fear. Now, if you are able to overcome that fear, then you will get into a new learning. Okay? Yes. So we are from taking example from that seagull who was initially afraid of just flying. Finally, with the help of so many things, okay, his parents, and because of some environment, he just jumped and he was able to fly, isn't it? So that was his first flight. And as far as the writing exercise is concerned, I told you to write about your first learning. It may be your bicycle, it may be your swimming class, all this thing. You just take out one particular skill and you just write about that. We all know that whenever there is some new learning, there will be a fear, isn't it? Now, how were you able to overcome that fear? Who was responsible for overcoming that fear, and how did you feel when you were able to overcome that fear? Now you are supposed to be writing all these things, and I received assignment from some of the students, but few students, they are still like this, they never turn up their assignments. Okay, so I request you to come up with your own assignment, even if you are late, but make sure that you submit your assignment so that you don't lose your marks. Okay? Yes. Now, today we are going to read the second story, and that is The Black Aeroplane. As you can see, that Black Aeroplane, it's written by a British novelist, okay, and a journalist by the name Frederick Fawcett. And Frederick Fawcett has written so many stories. Okay, I'm sure some of you have read at least one of his stories. Okay, Frederick Fawcett normally he writes mystery story. Okay, story which has got some mystery. So that is the genre he was expert in. I remember one story written by him, The Day of the Jackal. It's a very famous, it talks about assassination of a president. You can also watch that movie, okay, The Day of the Jackal. Now, the particular story that we are going to read today, very short one, is The Black Aeroplane. And we know Frederick Fawcett normally write a story which has got some mystery. So let us try to see what is the mystery in this story. Okay, yes. Now, before that, uh, in the previous lesson, there were some exercises. I want you to do these exercises. If you are not able to do, at least make sure that you have the answers ready. Okay, if you are not able to write all these things, okay, because lots and lots of writing assignment are there, but at least go through this, make yourself familiar with these questions. Okay, that is all I want you to do. Okay, now talking about the black aeroplane. You see, okay, uh, it's a story about what should I say, a pilot. Okay, yes, and aeroplane, flying aeroplane is not everybody's cup of tea. Even I'm explaining all these things, but I don't know what should I say, how aeroplane flies. Okay, but we have what should I say, travel by flight, but we don't know work as a pilot. Okay, yes. Now here the story, it talks about that one experience of a pilot. I was happy to be alone. Now, Frederick Fawcett, he tells the story. Okay, yes, it is written in first person. You remember we are talking about the narration, first person and third person. Now, this story was written in first person. Why the narrator narrator was telling us. I was happy. So you see that the narrator was flying. Where was he flying? He was flying from France to England. Okay, England is his own place. Now he was flying from England to France to England, and what should I say? The journey was very smooth. When we talk about aeroplane, we are not talking about the big commercial aeroplane. Okay, we are talking about small charter or private plane. And in this particular story, what is the name of the aeroplane? Can you identify? Yes, the name of the aeroplane is Dakota. Okay, yes, there is one particular name. um, the cars and motorbikes, they have their own registration. So the aeroplane has its own registration number. So what is the registration number? Dakota DS 088. Okay, so that is the name of the aeroplane. Now he was flying from France and back to England. Okay, yes. Now everything was going very smoothly. Okay, and when the aeroplane moves from one place to other or one country to other, the the pilot normally contacts the ground floor or the air traffic controller, and we used to have lots and lots of conversation. Okay, on the road we have got traffic signal, we have got traffic police like this, but in the sky, okay, yes, the only communication is through radio, through satellite communication like this. So these are some of the communication that takes place. Okay, for example, if you look at the second paragraph, Paris control Dakota D as 088 here. Can you hear me? I'm on my way to England. Over. Now, this is the first communication. Okay, yes, the pilot he makes to the Paris control room, Okay, yes. And what is the response the pilot got from the ground floor? Okay, DS 088, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12 degrees west now. DS 088, over. So you will get some kind of idea. Now, this is the communication, okay, happening between the pilot and the ground floor or the traffic controller, and the traffic controller makes way for the pilot, and according to the instruction given by the ground floor or the traffic controller, okay, the pilot which will follow that thing. Now, in this particular thing, he was advised to turn 12-degree west now because he was going to England. Okay. And then he turned towards he'd listen and obey the command. And then everything was going. Now remember, where was he going? He was going to England, and he was very excited. England is his own place. Okay. And he was very excited to taste the English breakfast. Okay. Yes. And it was an easy flight. Yes, easy flight means there wasn't any, what should I say, uneasiness. Everything was going very smoothly. The weather was good. The aeroplane was good. The travel was light, like this. Okay, yes. And then suddenly, what happened? Okay, when everything was going smoothly, and we are not talking about things on the ground. Okay, yes, bus and car like this. Okay, we are talking few thousand kilometers in the sky. Okay, if anything happens, it is totally different from what happens on the ground. Okay, yes. Now, what happened? There was a storm. Okay, the weather was not good, and some of you who have already flown aeroplane, okay, you can also imagine, you can relate. Okay, when the weather was not good, then you can see lots and lots of turbulence in the aeroplane, and you can imagine what kind of feeling you have, isn't it? Now he was in his private plane, and there was a storm. Okay, it was very huge, and he compared that storm. Okay, where did he compare this storm? He compared this to the Black Mountain. They look like a black mountain. So you see, there is one simile. Okay, we will also come across another simile. Okay, yes. So there was a storm. It's very dangerous. Okay, yes. And on top of this, he was also running short of the fuel. Okay, without fuel, they cannot fly. Okay, so it was a very dangerous situation for him. Okay, so whether he should go back to England or whether he should just stop at Paris, presently, the place where he was flying presently. Okay, there was some kind of a dialogue going on in his mind. Actually, he was supposed to go to England, but looking at the situation, current situation, where there was a storm and he was also running short of fuel. Okay, yes, whether he should stay at Paris or whether he should continue on. And finally, what did he decide to do? He decided to take risks. So that means, in spite of all the bad weather, the storm, okay, he just continued his journey, okay, in the midst of this storm. And now, inside the cloud, everything was suddenly black. So you see, we are not talking about things on the ground. We are talking about few thousand in the sky, and the sky was also black. Okay, yes. And then the aeroplane, okay, was moving into clouds and storm. Now everything was black. He could not see anything. And you see the compass was not working. It was making rounds and round. It was dead. The radio signal with with he contact the grounds up. It was also not working. So everything was very what should I say, sad. Okay, he tried to make a contact with the controller, traffic control. Paris control, can you hear me? But there was no answer. Why? Because there was a storm. He totally lost the contact. Okay, yes. Now we can also imagine what kind of feeling, okay, yes, what kind of what should I say, situation he was going through. Okay, yes. And now, as a layperson, there is only one thing left. What was that? Okay, yes, to pray to God. Somebody will come to help you. Otherwise, okay, there is no chance. Why? Because there was a storm, the contact was not working, there was no fuel. Okay, everything was not good. Okay, yes. So there will be which is a chance of a crash, isn't it? Like this. And then what happened? Suddenly, he saw another plane. Okay, another plane. It had no light on its wing, but he could see flying next to me through the storm. But there was an aeroplane. Okay, and we don't know where that aeroplane came. He was very happy to see another person, isn't it? Now you can also imagine you were in a strange lane. You were in a which were in the midst of a problem, and suddenly there was somebody, what should I say, you saw, you feel very happy. Okay, at least you have got some company. Now, same thing was going on with him. He was afraid, he was sad. Okay, and suddenly he saw another pilot. And what was that pilot doing? No, the pilot knew that he was lost, he was having problem. So he tried to show him the way. He tried to help, what should I say, the narrator who was in a problem. Okay, and then what did he? He just showed the way. He just moving ahead of that Dakota. Dakota is the name of the plane that the narrator was flying, isn't it? So he was going before Dakota and he was trying to show the way. And what was the narrator doing? The narrator was just following the strange aeroplane. Strange means the aeroplane came all of a sudden. Okay, yes. And he followed. Again, there is one simile. What is that simile? He followed the strange aeroplane like an obedient child. He is compared to the obedient child because there is no what should I time for him to rebuke or against like this. He just silently have to obey. You got it? And then he just followed. Okay, and after half an hour, the black aeroplane was still there. And then after flying for 5 or 10 minutes, what happened? Okay, suddenly he saw, what should I say, two long straight line of lights in front of him. Okay, now what are these lines? Now these were the lines of runway. Okay, you know runway. Okay, yes, runway is the way, what should I say, from which the aeroplane takes off and what should I say, aeroplanes land like this. Okay, now there is airport. He was able to reach the airport. Okay, and nothing bad thing happened. Why? Because he was helped by another aeroplane. Okay, with the help of, by following the instruction of the another aeroplane, he was able to land safely without any problem, in spite of the lack of fuel, in spite of the storm. He was able to land. Okay, yes, the moment he landed, what did he do? Everybody will do. Okay, you will think of thanking the person. Okay, and then he went to the ground staff. Okay, and then asked who the other aeroplane was. Why? Because I wanted to thank, because actually he helped me out of this problem like this. And then surprisingly, what did the staff, okay, the ground staff woman, okay, the women controller said, she said that another aeroplane? No, there wasn't any aeroplane, because during the storm time, no aeroplane would ever fly. You were the only aeroplane that we could see on the radar. Yes. So the narrator was surprised, because he had already seen with his own eyes the black aeroplane. He followed that, and the pilot was there. Okay, yes. But the ground, which is a controller, who was really looking after all the aeroplane and giving direction and all these things, okay, she said that there wasn't any aeroplane. Now, who was telling lie? Was the ground staff telling lie? Was the narrator telling lie? Okay, so you see, the story ends abruptly. Okay, the writer, you see, he tells us a story which makes us, which we say, confused at the end. Why? Because we don't know whether there was actually the black aeroplane, or was the woman who was working in the traffic control, she was telling lie, all these things. But whatever, the narrator was very happy. He should be very grateful to that black aeroplane. But it is, nobody knows the answer. Okay, yes, whether there were actually was a black aeroplane who came to have, or was it the narrator's imagination, all these things. So with this, we have come to the end of the story. I just want you to go through the story, because the story is very short, simple, and try to come up with your own, what should I say, answer. Okay? Yes. What actually happened. Okay, yes. Thank you.